Hi, and welcome to the Goodman Acker Show. I'm Jordan Acker, your host. Today, we're going to talk to a couple more Goodman Acker attorneys about the stuff that we do at the law firm of Goodman Acker. Joining me today, as always, is my co-host, Johnny Hamood. Johnny, thanks for joining me again.
Thank you, Jordan. How are you?
And we have one of the Goodman Acker partners here today, Tim Sulloli. Tim, thanks so much for joining us.
Hi, Jordan. Thanks for having me.
So, Tim, just to start, just to get our viewers to know you a little bit better, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a partner at Goodman Acker, as you stated. I've been at Goodman Acker for approximately 10 or 11 years. Prior to that, went to law school at U of D, Mercy Law School in Detroit, and actually worked at Jeffrey Feiger's office. I assume a lot of people have heard of Jeffrey Feiger, and worked at his firm for approximately 2 years before moving out to Goodman Acker. So I've been a licensed attorney in the state of Michigan for approximately 15 years. Also, I should also state that I also attended the University of Michigan in Dearborn and received an undergrad degree before going out to law school.
It's good to know.
Tim, how did you decide to get into personal injury specifically?
Well, you know, it wasn't until I actually started working at Jeffrey Feiger's firm, my last year of law school. Up until that point, I had been undecided in terms of whether I wanted to do personal injury or if I wanted to do corporate law.
Oh.
As growing up, I always thought I wanted to be a corporate lawyer, but working at Jeffrey Feiger's firm and interning there my last year of law school and being able to see all the cases that he handled and the different types of cases he handled really pushed me into the field of personal injury.
So you've been doing this for a while. What are your specialties?
My specialties at Goodman Acker are medical malpractice, auto negligence cases, and what we call premises cases. For example, if somebody trips and falls or slips and falls on somebody's property or at a store, for example.
Interesting. So the first one you talked about is one that we get tons of phone calls about, people asking about medical malpractice.
Correct.
So tell our viewers, what is medical malpractice?
Well, medical malpractice, from a legal standpoint, is when a physician does not do what a reasonable, prudent physician would do under the same or similar circumstances. So, for example, if somebody is going in and having back surgery, that doctor, for example, cuts a nerve, something like that would be considered medical malpractice, where somebody has problems after that surgery.
So are there strict requirements in Michigan as for who can bring a medical malpractice claim?
Well, there are very strict requirements in Michigan for medical malpractice cases. For example, there's only 2 years in Michigan to bring a lawsuit for medical malpractice, and before you can even file a lawsuit, you have to file some legal documents to everybody who you may potentially sue, explaining what the potential lawsuit's going to be and what you believe that those medical professionals did wrong and what they should have done. And there's also some more legal requirements, but the biggest thing is the 2-year time limit to bring a medical malpractice case, which a lot of people don't know, and which is a very short time period in Michigan.
Tim, that's a good piece of information for our viewers. The other thing is, can you tell our viewers a little bit about what are some of the early hints that someone has been malpracticed by their medical provider? What should they look for? What can they gather in terms of information before they come see an attorney like yourself?
Well, what they should look for, and it's more of a feeling that somebody has a result that isn't expected. For example, if you're going in and have back surgery and the doctor tells you, here's what we're going to do, and then you'll be fine after that. And then you have a complication afterwards. Maybe you have an infection, you need additional surgeries, things of that nature. That's when I think you should start asking questions of your physician. What's going on here? Why am I not any better? And you should maybe get a second opinion, sometimes a third opinion. And then after that, but like I said, it's more a feeling that somebody gets that something just isn't right. Maybe they're not getting the right answers from their physician. And so I always recommend for people to either get a second opinion or maybe call a lawyer, and specifically you call Goodman Acker. We'd be more than happy to talk to you and explain to you whether we think you have a medical malpractice case.
Great, yeah, and again, for all of our viewers, if you have a question about a medical malpractice claim, give us a call day or night, 24 hours a day, 248-483-5000. That's 248-483-5000. Tim or any of our specialists at Goodman Acker would be happy to help you in any way that they possibly can. So Tim, the last question I have for you is more of a personal one. So you have a reputation at Goodman Acker for being very hardworking, always taking work home, doing whatever you can for your clients. But you are work ethic didn't start when you were working as a lawyer, isn't that right?
That's correct, Jordan. It actually started when I was probably about 12 or 13 years old. My parents have always been in the restaurant business, and my dad had a restaurant back then. And I started at probably about 13 years old working in the kitchen, washing dishes for years, then eventually working my way up until manager. So way back when, I would actually finish school, come home, change clothes, and then be driven to my dad's restaurant and work there till about 9 o'clock. And so that was pretty much Monday through Friday for me. And that instilled a hard work ethic for me. And I also saw how hard my dad worked. And to this day, he still works 7 days a week in the restaurant. So, and that helps me. And that really has really fostered that hard working ethic that I have.
That's great, yeah. And Tim, as you know, does not take a day off. When we come back on the Goodman Acker Show, we're going to talk a little bit more about something that you receive as part of your PIP benefits if you're involved in an auto accident. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
After the accident,
I needed action fast.
I couldn't afford second best.
There was only one opportunity to get this right.
I called Goodman Acker.
I got almost $350,000.
Insurance company told me I'd only get 10.
$75,000.
I got almost $250,000.
$600,000.
They started working for me.
Fast.
Fast.
They mean business.
Power.
Power. Success.
The insurance company knew their name.
Goodman Acker.
لتضمن حقوقك كاملة اتصل اليوم بمكتب المحامي Goodman Acker.
And welcome back to the Goodman Acker Show. I'm Jordan Acker, your host, alongside my co-host, Johnny Hamood, and Goodman Acker partner, Tim Sulloli. So, before the break, we talked a little bit about medical malpractice. Now we're going to switch gears a little bit. And again, if you have any legal question, day or night, give us a call, 248-483-5000. So we're going to talk about one of the things you're entitled to under Michigan no-fault law. That is attendant care and replacement services. So Tim, let's just start with you for a second. What is attendant care and what do our viewers have to know about it?
Attendant care is what we call nursing care or personal type care. And attendant care can be provided by a licensed individual such as a nurse or a nurse's aide, or it can be provided by a family member. And so some examples of attendant care would be assisting somebody in dressing, somebody in bathing, preparing food for somebody, even medical transportation. That means taking somebody to and from doctor appointments. Attendant care can also include supervision. We often have cases where somebody has suffered a head injury. They're not safe to be left home alone. And so oftentimes that person needs somebody to sit with them, and you can almost kind of think of it as babysitting, making sure that person doesn't harm themselves or maybe, for example, leave a stove on or leave something like that which could be a danger.
So, Johnny, tell our viewers, how is attendant care calculated?
Yeah, attendant care, Jordan, is actually calculated and paid by the insurance company hourly. So, as Tim mentioned, some attendant care providers are skilled nurses and people who have degrees and training in this sort of thing. They would be entitled to be paid a higher rate, usually from the insurance company who is paying their bill. Oftentimes, a family member can do the same care, just with less experience and skill. And for that reason, they're usually paid a lower rate, but it is hourly, and your insurance company pays that hourly to you.
Tim, do you need a prescription to get attendant care?
I would tell you, technically under the law, you don't need a prescription, but you will never get an insurance company to pay you attendant care without a prescription.
Interesting.
And so I often tell my clients that if you're getting attendant care, go to your doctor, ask for a medical prescription from a doctor, because short of a medical prescription, you're not going to get an insurance company to pay you. Although, as I stated, under the Michigan no-fault law, there isn't such a requirement for an actual prescription, but every insurance company is going to want one.
Okay. And Johnny, how long do you get attendant care for?
Well, the beauty of the benefit of attendant care, Jordan, is that it's actually payable for life. It's what's called an allowable expense under Michigan no-fault law. And like medical bills, they consider it a service for your care, recovery, and rehabilitation. So for that reason, it's payable for life.
Great. Tim, what else is included in attendant care? You talked about a little bit about family babysitting, things like that. Is there anything else that people should know? Any other types of services that are covered?
Well, there's often more serious items that are often covered, Jordan, and those include where you have medical professionals coming in. I've had individuals who have had wounds, and we've had nurses come in to change the dressings to those wounds. I've had individuals who have had IVs and receiving medicine through those IVs, and so there's actual nurses that come into the home to change the IVs, and then those nurses also will teach family members to do that so that the family members can provide that attendant care service.
And so let's switch gears for a second, because we talked about who can provide nursing services, who can provide attendant care. Let's talk about replacement services, because they seem like they're sort of similar, but they're two really different things. Isn't that right, Johnny?
Yeah, they are. The first of which is the amount for which you can collect for this type of service. Replacement services are usually limited to, under the law, they're limited to 3 years after the date of the accident, for which you can collect replacement services. That's the first biggest difference. The next difference is the type of service that's being provided. Replacement services should be thought of as like household chores. So you paying someone to cook for you and to sweep your floors and to vacuum and run errands and that sort of thing.
So, Tim, you can't get a prescription for these replacement services, obviously. Is there some kind of form or some sort of, how do you document this for the insurance company?
Well, there are forms, and well, let me step back a little bit. You can document it. You can have a notepad, for example, and you can keep, write the date on that notepad and what you did that day. Or if you're working with a law firm, I know at Goodman Acker we have forms that we give our clients, and they're specific forms where our clients simply have to check off or circle what kind of services they provided. And they put the dates down. But short of having a form from a law firm such as Goodman Acker, you can simply write on a notepad specifically what you did that day and keep track of it. But the insurance company is going to want some type of log, some type of document to back up what you're telling them in terms of the services that you provided to them, to the injured person.
It can be even that informal. It doesn't need to be a legal affidavit of some kind.
It does not have to be a complicated form. It can be as simple as a notepad, you writing down the date, what you did for that person, and I would sign it and date it. But it can be that simple.
Interesting. So, Johnny, talking a little bit more about these kinds of services, are they also outdoor services? For example, in the summer in Michigan, you might need your grass cut, or your weeds removed. Is that kind of stuff considered replacement services?
Exactly, yeah. A lot of times we have clients who, due to back injuries or otherwise, have trouble shoveling the snow, especially during winters like this. They can pay for someone to come and pay them $20 a day maximum to do these chores for them, which include exterior work and whatnot.
Wow, well that's really interesting stuff, guys. Thank you so much for enlightening our viewers about this. And when we get back, we're going to talk a little bit more about the third-party case in an auto accident. What is it, and when are you able to bring it? Don't move. We'll be right back on the Goodman Acker Show.
After the accident,
I needed action fast.
I couldn't afford second best.
There was only one opportunity to get this right.
I called Goodman Acker.
I got almost $350,000.
Insurance company told me I'd only get 10.
$75,000.
I got almost $250,000.
$600,000.
They started working for me.
Fast.
Fast.
They mean business.
Power.
Power. Success.
The insurance company knew their name.
Goodman Acker.
لتضمن حقوقك كاملة اتصل اليوم بمكتب المحامي Goodman Acker.
And welcome back to the Goodman Acker Show. I'm your host, Jordan Acker. Today we're here again with my co-host, Johnny Hamood, and Goodman Acker partner, Tim Sulloli. Sure. And again, if you have a legal question, day or night, you can reach us, 248-483-5000. And in a bit of exciting news, gentlemen, we'll be doing the show live starting in just a few weeks. So our final topic that we're going to talk about today on the Goodman Acker Show is the third-party case. So Tim, tell us, what is a third-party case?
Jordan, a third-party case, again, that's more or less a legal term, is a case against the at-fault driver in a motor vehicle accident. So when we talk about third-party case, that is be your claim for bodily injury, for the pain and suffering that you've gone through, for the surgery that you may have needed, for the broken bones that you may have suffered in an auto accident. It's entirely different than what we talked about in the last segment, which are your no-fault benefits.
Mm-hmm. So, Johnny, we get this question all the time, is when should I call an attorney? Is it too early to call an attorney?
Yeah.
What would you say?
Yeah, I think the easiest answer is it's never too early to contact an attorney if you've been in an accident. Sorting through insurances and finding at-fault parties and insurance policies can be a very difficult situation for a regular citizen. We recommend contacting an attorney immediately.
That's right. So Tim, I guess the biggest question that people ask me, and I'm sure ask you as well, is how do you know if you're picking the right attorney for these third-party cases?
Well, you know, Jordan, I would tell you that's probably not the easiest question to answer. Obviously, I would tell you they call it Goodman Acker, because then you're definitely going to be with the right firm and the right attorneys. But the problem is that you often see a lot of commercials on TV. You see a lot of billboards these days, and anybody can pay some money and put a billboard up. That doesn't mean that that attorney knows what they're doing, even if they're advertising for auto accident cases. So what I would suggest is going on the internet, searching that person's name, seeing what comes up. Maybe seeing what other clients are saying about that firm. Go to their website if they have a website. See the qualifications and the credentials of these lawyers that are working at that firm. Make sure that I would tell you, make sure that it's more than just one attorney. Make sure that it's a group of attorneys. See what kind of staff that they have. Call the attorney, speak with the attorney, and ask them questions and see if they know what they're talking about. The most important thing is make sure that you feel comfortable with whatever attorney that you're contacting and speaking to. I would tell you, if you don't feel comfortable, if you think that something's off or something's not right, that's probably not the right attorney for you.
So you'd feel it's the same way that you'd pick a doctor or a surgeon. You'd want someone who specializes in what you're looking for.
Absolutely, and I think most people, when they're thinking about going to a doctor, they look up that doctor on the internet. They do some research. It is no different with an attorney. They should be doing the same thing.
So getting back to the third-party case, as we discussed before, how do you know if you have a case?
Well, that's where I think a lawyer comes in, and it's kind of what Johnny had said. You know, it's never too early to contact an attorney because you may not know. Right. And the problem is in Michigan, and I wouldn't also call it so much a problem, but the law in Michigan is that there's a threshold, meaning the injuries have to meet a certain level of seriousness in order to pursue a case for bodily injury, to pursue a third-party case. Oftentimes, people will not know that, and so that's why it's important to contact an attorney early. Sooner than later, I always tell people.
So what is that threshold? That
threshold is that you have to have suffered a medically identifiable injury that prevents you from performing your activity of daily living as you did prior to the accident. So for example, when we say medically identifiable, it could be broken bones that show up on an x-ray. It could be a herniated disc that shows up on an MRI, for example, which is a diagnostic test. And as long as you have a medically identified, or it could be I should say, it actually could be an injury that a doctor diagnoses. But usually if we talk about sprains or strains, those are what we call soft tissue injuries that maybe heal up after a week or so. Those usually will not meet the threshold. There usually has to be a more serious injury such as broken bones or maybe a herniated disc, things of that nature.
So when these cases are brought, how are damages calculated in Michigan?
Well, damages are, and that's a good question, and I think a tough question to answer.
Sure,
damages are calculated based upon the severity of the injury, whether somebody's had surgery, time that people have missed from work, the assistance somebody has required around the house with their activities of daily living, such as cooking and cleaning and that type of thing. So there's a number of factors that go into consideration in determining what a case is worth or what our damages are worth. And also, and probably one of the most important things is how much insurance that the at-fault driver had. That's really going to kind of drive how much that case is going to be worth or how much that case may settle for example.
So, Johnny, something we talked about a little bit last week, but I think it's worth touching on again. So what if that other driver, you have all these, you have a threshold injury, as they call it in Michigan. What happens if that person doesn't have any insurance?
Yeah, unfortunately, with the high costs of insurance nowadays, we often encounter that situation. And that's why we recommend that all drivers carry what's called uninsured motorist coverage on their own insurance policy. So in the event that you are involved in an accident caused by another at-fault party and they don't have insurance, your own insurance then would then kick in and act as a coverage policy for you to pursue for these third-party injury cases that we talked about.
And Tim, what would you recommend to someone calling you and a potential client in terms of how much uninsured or underinsured motorist coverage they have?
Well, I would tell somebody to make sure that they look at their insurance policy first to see if they have that coverage and how much. The bare minimum in Michigan, first of all, insurance companies do not have to provide uninsured motorist coverage. And so, and the most, what really kind of drives us crazy a little bit is when we get cases where an uninsured driver is involved and somebody does not have that coverage. It literally only costs you a few dollars a year extra on your insurance premium.
Right.
And so I would tell them, look at your insurance policy and see what you have. I would say maintain at least $100,000 in uninsured motorist coverage. The difference between maintaining $20,000 in coverage and $100,000 in coverage is literally just a few dollars a year. It is not that much at all, but people unfortunately don't realize that. So you need to really ask your insurance agent and ask your insurance company to really bump you up to at least $100,000.
Oh, well, that's really, really helpful. Thank you, gentlemen, so much. And again, if you have a legal question, day or night, give our attorneys a call, 248-483-5000. I should also mention at this time that Johnny and I will be taking your calls on the radio every Thursday from 5:40 p.m. until 6 p.m. in case you have a legal question. And you can find us on 680 AM or on the internet. For Johnny Hamood and Tim Sulloli, I'm Jordan Acker saying good night and thank you so much for watching.